Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so yeah, man, I was just watching Trevor Lane, and he was talking about how he was really troubled by LeBron James's statement about the Lakers not being built to compete without our starters. We're not built to function the same way is what I think LeBron was referring to. I don't think it speaks to us not having the depth necessary to fill in for starters. We just need to morph into somebody else to take advantage of those elements. And I think that's more so what he's referring to. And there's a big difference, you know what I mean? It's not just that you have the bodies in place, and it's not just that they are talented, but you're going to want those bodies to be able to do the same things that AD does, so that you don't have to more or less morph, as I said, into a different team in order to take advantage of those elements. And I do believe that's what LeBron James was actually referring to. And so that's how I took it anyway. I just understand, like, when you remove D'Lo, you don't have a facilitating backup point guard that can slip into his role and continue to run and function the same way your team would otherwise like to remain. When you move AD, of course, we've been talking a lot about how our backup centers don't have the defensive ability that AD does, or even can even mirror some of those same things. In order to bring those players in, we got to take advantage of their strengths, which are entirely different, thus leaving us with different weaknesses. You know, when you remove Cam Reddish, you don't have the backup shooting guard that can do the things that Cam can do defensively. Yeah, you got a young player like Max Christie in a position to do similar things, but at the same time, he's underdeveloped at this point. Can't trust him to do that. Austin Reeves, a different player. He's not going to be tracking players around a different way. Now you got to be able to morph into what otherwise takes advantage of Austin's strengths and mask his weaknesses, as to which, when you remove three starters from this lineup, that is the dynamic you're dealing with. Now you're bringing in different players with different strengths and weaknesses, and you're going to have to be able to find a way to take advantage of those. So that's what I took what Braun was saying to mean. I don't think that means that we need to re-examine the depth that the Lakers have. We just need to learn how to utilize these guys' strengths and find out exactly what type of team we are when those guys ain't on the floor. You know what I mean? And that is something that we haven't had time to do. And I think it speaks more so to our team needing to learn themselves a bit more. These guys are new to what they're doing. They're new. A lot of these guys are new to the team, only been here for a season and a half, with the team not practicing every day, for which I talk about, and exploring different things in practice that would allow them to have a better understanding of what to do when three starters are out. You find yourself in a situation where you're running that stuff in real time on a basketball floor for a regular season game, as to which you don't know what you're doing. I think LeBron James was speaking more so to us not being prepared to morph into what we need to morph into, which speaks more so to coaching, in my opinion, speaks more so to practice time and in what is being explored just in general in regards to our team and understanding itself and the elements of the players that are provided. So you can have all the depth in the world, but if you're removing three starters and you're replacing them with dudes that do different things, now you got to figure out what those things are and be able to utilize and maximize those things while covering those weaknesses up. And if you cannot do that, it don't matter how talented those dudes are, you're going to have trouble on a basketball floor, because that's what really comes about when you do that. Unless, again, you're practicing in such a way that allows yourself to have opportunities to kind of know who these guys are when other guys are not on the floor, to kind of know what goes on with your team. So it's a lot that goes into team building. It's not just roster construction. Team building helps you. It's also something that has to do with knowing what players can do and what situations you can place them in, who to put next to whom in order to mask other guys' weaknesses and extenuate strengths. It's not just about, okay, do we have enough bodies? Are they talented? All right, cool, then we're good. No, you got to know what these guys do. And if they don't mesh well with one another, you bringing in three backup guys that you've never used in those combinations. You got two starters that now are used to playing with certain elements. They got to get used to playing with the elements of guys that they don't often find themselves on the floor with. It's a lot to know. And that's why you got to give credence to continuity of teams that have been together for 4 and 5 years, because they don't have these problems as much, because they've already used all these combinations, been through different mistakes, know certain guys can't play with certain guys, etc. Your starters and your bench know each other in such a way to where if a guy's missing, two guys, three guys missing, you still can put a the combinations that you've used over the years on the floor and still get some success, or to at least know what limitations guys have for one another, so they don't be throwing the ball off each other's heads and stuff like that. It has much more to do with continuity, much more to do with togetherness and how long a team has been together, and much less to do with whether or not your depth is talented enough to be a viable basketball team. Talent is only half the battle. Do the pieces fit? And while your starters fit and your second unit may fit, once you start trying to mix them pieces together and trying to replace guys, and now you got to, have a guy play a little more minutes with some guys he ain't played with, and maybe he gets in foul trouble. Now you got to slot some guys around different. We're not constructed to play without starters, and that's the fullness of what I think LeBron James is referring to. So I just wanted to put that out there, because the game is not A and B, C. It's not as simple as black and white. There's some things that have to be understood about what LeBron was really trying to express that'll help us understand it's not as simple as, okay, we need to go out and get more depth. You can go out and get more depth, maybe even get more talented pieces, but if they don't bring the elements to the table that will ultimately complement who you have starting, then you still have the same problem. It's the same problem. Now, I do think that the Lakers need to find some pieces that ultimately do that, though. If they want to continue to run the same stuff with the starters that they do with the second unit, when you remove 3 starters, you would better have some guys that are comparable to those starters, strengths and weaknesses, more so strengths than anything. And if you don't, then obviously you see what we saw in San Antonio. It doesn't work. So that's really what it comes down to, man. I just wanted to bring that to the table, let people understand where my head is in regards to my level of concern about what LeBron James is talking about, because I understood it right away. Like, we're not built to be without 3 starters. The starters that we have do so much for our team, and the backups that we have are so different from those starters that, you remove 3 of them, maybe 1 or 2. You remove 3, particularly D'Lo and AD, you got a whole new team, man. You got a whole new team, and trying to make all that make sense all throughout the course of a basketball game when you haven't run these units before, it makes it even more difficult. So, was I frustrated at the San Antonio loss? Yeah, I was frustrated. But do I believe that our team had any shot at winning that game based on what it is we didn't have on the floor? No. When I zoom all the way out and let a day pass, think about that loss, you're not going to beat anybody that way. You have to play against significantly lesser talent that is not cohesive in nature. Guys like Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson have been playing on the same team for several years. Wembanyama, first overall pick, 7'4". Like, these guys are going to beat you if you have so many pieces missing and so little understanding of what those pieces that you are bringing in can do with the guys that are remaining. It just is what it is. It's a professional basketball floor. You can't afford to not know what you're doing out there, have half of your team not necessarily moving in a cohesive lockstep, so to speak, and then expect to win basketball games. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. And not against the Spurs, not against Detroit, and definitely not against good teams. So that's what I wanted to say, man. Elements matter. Elements. Can your guy pass? If he can't, the guy he's replacing, it's going to be a situation where he's not going to be able to do what that guy did. Can your guy defend? If he's replacing a guy who's great at defending, then you're probably going to have issues. So these are things that we just want to make sure that everybody's clear on, so that we don't panic, because we do have a deep team. And if you do keep this team together for a long period of time, we will work these things out. And I think LeBron James' opinion about whether or not we're built to play without starters would change if he knew more. If the team knew itself a bit better to use different combinations, that would set everything up just fine for us. We would understand what to do, what not to do, how guys play with one another, etc. We've been missing so many players in terms of injury this year. So a lot of the guys we're asking to fill in have been missing throughout the course of the season, and you just got to know what guys can do. It's a puzzle piece type of thing that has to come together to make a full picture. And if your team it doesn't have the ability to slide in together and just make cohesive sense and kind of do what the other guy did, and man, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle against anybody in the NBA. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching, and I'm out.